I feel like I can now officially say that we can get this homeschooling year started. I just finally finished organizing everything that we need for this year. So our third grade curriculum, our eighth grade curriculum, our parent binders, and I'm just like, we can get this going. So today I am going to share with you how is it that I put together our son's eighth grade binder for our Abeka homeschool curriculum. This year we are doing the Academy, and I'm just so happy how everything turned out. I want to forewarn you, this is a very detailed video, so it's a little bit longer, but it's because I'm organizing it in a way that is going to be more efficient and just simpler to follow through for him, for us. Is just gonna make more sense when it comes to like assignments that come up. I am setting up our binder, our parent binder, just like I set up the student binder. So I just feel like finally, this can happen. So without further ado, let me show you how I put our eighth grade curriculum together in our binder this year. These are the items that we are going to be needing to organize our eighth grade Abeka student binder. Right now, I just have all of my notes written on a lined piece of paper for me organizing it. So first off, you are going to need a 3-hole puncher. I love this hole puncher. I've been using this one ever since we started homeschooling, and it's pretty darn amazing. It hole punches so well and through big stacks of paper, so I definitely recommend it. It's heavy duty, it hasn't broken. I'll have the link in the description below if you're interested in it. I'm going to be using some sticky notes, and this is going to be to tab all of the student workbooks. I'll be dividing this into 5 sections. So I'm simply using 5 tab dividers for this one. And for my son, we are sticking with these binders, the hard case ones. This worked pretty good with him last year as well. And you know, for how he uses his stuff, this works pretty good. Now, we've used the Flex binder before, and it is amazing as well. With my son though, he has a tendency to just want to take the paper out of the binder instead of just, you know, using it as a notebook. So that's why this works well for him. And it has these little pockets over here that we can use to store some additional items. We always like to get the ones that are flat like this. I never like the ones that have the rings on the spine. So if you're using these types of binders, I always just like the ones that are like this. So that's that. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that I love to tab everything for the entirety of the year. And then as time goes and things approach, I go ahead and add them into the binder. I just feel like doing this as a batch at the beginning of the school year just saves so much time and makes everything so much more efficient throughout the rest of the school year. So the student materials that we are going to be using for our binder is going to be the Book of Acts, Proverbs, Pre-Algebra Quizzes and Tests, Of Places Literature Test with Speed and Comprehension Quizzes, Grammar and Composition Quizzes and Tests, Vocabulary, Spelling, Poetry Quizzes, Volume 1 of the America Land I Love Quizzes and Tests, Volume 2 of the America Land I Love Quizzes and Tests, the Geography Studies and Projects, the Science, Earth and Space Quizzes, the Science, Earth and Space Tests, and the Science, Earth and Space Activity and STEM book. Eventually, these are all the things that are going to end up in that binder. Now, the way I've organized this is so that all of this will fit under just 5 tabs. Okay, now how are we gonna do that? I will explain so in a little bit. So the very first thing I'm going to do is tab everything in these binders by quarter. For 8th grade, there are a total of 4 quarters. And I have gone through, and in the guide that I'm gonna put together, you're going to see the lessons or the tests or a quiz, depending on the book that you will begin to, that the quarter will begin. and that the quarter will end. Typically, I place a tab behind the last assessment that is done for that quarter and on the very first assessment that the quarter begins with, that the next quarter begins with. So I'm beginning with quarter 2 on all of these because quarter 1 technically does not have to be tagged at all. Now here in Pennsylvania is cicada season, so that sound that you hear in the background are the cicadas. So the order that I will be tagging this in is going to be Bible, pre-algebra, English, science, and then history. So for Bible, I'm going to do Q2, Q3, and Q4. If you want to go through and do all your tabbies like that all at once too, you can do that as well. Now for the book of Acts, which takes place in the first quarter and the second quarter, it ends with test 1. So I'm going to go to the end of test 1 like this, okay? And that's page 13 in this particular version. And I'm going to put that tab there. And that's up to the point that this book is going to go. This gets covered in quarter 1 and quarter 2. So then I'm going to put that off to the side. For quarter 3 is going to be Proverbs. And Proverbs begins right here. And I'm just going to put the tab right there so I know where it begins. So page 15, we're going to tab over here, and the last quarter begins with content quiz 3. Bible is done. So for arithmetic is going to be quizzes A through L, and then in here is going to be quizzes 1 through 12, and then T 1 through 3. So you know what, for this one, for arithmetic, we're also going to need this right here. Because in here is where they have those quick quizzes at the end right here that we're gonna add to. So, whoops, forgot that. All right, so over here, the last one is quiz 12 and test 3. So I'm gonna look over here typically for like the test 3 because they are in chronological order. So 11, 12, and where's my test? There we go. Test 3 is a quarter exam. And there we go. So I'm gonna put my Q2 tab here on quiz 13. And I'm going to continue doing that for the rest of the book. Now you're going to see this part at the very end where it says quizzes for optional concepts. You do not have to do that part. We're not gonna do that part. If you want to add that to your students' activities, if they need some, additional assessments for that, for those optional concepts, you can go ahead and do that. We're not. However, if you look at your video manual, you're going to notice that on the back where the progress reports are, and even though we do Abeka, even though we're doing Abeka Academy, we are doing the independent study version. I still always like to use their progress reports. It just is really helpful for me just to keep a nice record of everything that my son has done. And if in the future we do choose for him to go to high school, we have something that I can just, it'll help them place him where he needs to be. I don't know. I just feel that it's really good to keep us organized and have a nice record. And when I put a report card together for him, I just have this there to support what his grade was and why it was. So if you look over here, you're going to notice that the quizzes are part of the grade, the tests are part of the grade, but also these quick quizzes are also part of the grade. These quick quizzes are found in your video manual, starting on page A9, right there, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tab those as well. So for the quick quizzes, it goes for the first quarter, from quiz A to quiz L. These all have a letter, okay? These all have a letter there that instead of numbers, they're by letters. So A through L, L being the last one on lesson 40. So I'm going to put my tab on quiz M, which is where quarter 2 will begin. And then for quarter 2, it goes from quiz M to quiz Y. So I'm looking over here all the way to Y. And I am going to go ahead and put my Q3 right there on quiz Z. Then you're going to notice that quiz Z, and then it goes to double A, and the letters start doubling now. So for quarter 3 is going to go from quiz Z to quiz KK. So I'm going to come over here. Quiz KK is the last one. So I'm going to put Q4 on quiz LL. That way I have that ready to go there. So you know what? I'm just going to place this parent manual right there on top of that for when it comes time to rip stuff out. Now for literature. This is going to get interesting. I am going to tab all of these 3 books. However, all of these 3 books, I am going to be organizing under one tab. And when that time comes, I'll show you all how is it that I'm going to do that. So for all of these, I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did with the pre-algebra books. I'm gonna go through and I'm going to tab at the beginning of a new quarter, beginning with Q2. So for the grammar and composition quizzes and tests, you're going to notice that at the end of each last quiz of the quarter, like quiz 6, there is a quarter exam. After that quarter exam is where I put the tab. And I did that for every single quarter. Now, along with this, inside your video manual, in the English video manual, you are going to notice that in Appendix B, under Appendix B right there, okay, there are the evaluation forms for the composition. So for example, paragraph grade form, this is the assessment form for lesson 8. What I'm going to be doing is I am going to be including that in this section as well. And whenever we make it to the stuff that's going to get covered in lesson 8, this will be in there too, so that all of the assessment things are put into one place. For the spelling and vocabulary, I'm going to continue on doing the same thing that I did with the previous assessment books. So first quarter goes to quiz 7, and then you're going to see there is a review quiz 1 for lists 1 through 7. I'm going to be placing my tab right after that on quiz 8, which is when the next quarter begins. Now, history is divided into 2 semesters. So you're going to see here that on volume 1, I tabbed Q2. And then on volume 2, I tabbed at the beginning Q3 and Q4 in the middle. Now for this workbook right here, the geography studies and projects, what I will be doing is I'm going to be taking all of this stuff over here where all of the maps are at. I'm going to be tearing those out. I will be stapling them, and I'm going to be adding that into the binder into one of the folders. Now for the projects, there's geography projects. Those are part of the grade for history. So you're going to see that for quarter 1, they're going to be doing geography project 1. The number is right here on the right-hand corner, 1 through 6. So I'm going to go through here, 1 through 6, 6 being the last one. And then I am going to put my little Q2 thing right there, okay? And then quarter 2 is 7 through 11. So I'm gonna go all the way down to 11, take Q3, yep, and add it right here on 12. And then quarter 3 is going to be 12 through 16. So here we are. And then I'm gonna add Q4 right here, okay? That way I can just rip, 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 and go. Now, here's the thing about science. Science tests and quizzes don't all come chronologically put together. And what I will do is I'm going to tag all the quizzes, all the tests, and then this right here, the STEM project. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to pepper in everything so that it's in chronological. Now, when it comes to the science activity and STEM project book, something that I've learned with our son in particular, the activities, you know, we don't always do them. He doesn't always need them. I have found that for us, the quizzes are enough to help him retain the information to then do well on the test and do all of the assessments and all that stuff. This year, I'm not gonna go through and rip all the activities and put them in there. Instead, I'm going to leave him out, and if we see that he needs additional exercises or additional practice on something, we'll go ahead and have the book ready for that. However, this year we are going to attempt to do the STEM project. Last year there was so much going on, the STEM project wasn't really a priority in 7th grade, so we didn't even do it. So what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to take this entire thing out, the STEM project part. I'm going to rip it out, I'm going to staple it, and I'm going to add it into one of the pockets in the binder, because he will be referencing different portions of this throughout the quarters. And I know it does begin in quarter 1. So I want all of this to be kind of together in one place, and that's how we're gonna make that work. However, if you feel that the rest of the activities are necessary for your child to do, go ahead and do that. Activities are optional, they're not mandatory. The STEM project, however, is part of the grade. So that is definitely something that needs to be done if you are doing the Academy accredited. If you are doing the Academy independent study, really you have the flexibility to pick and choose the assessments that you would like your child to do. So that's it for that. I have a couple other books here that I am also going to be tagging. The vocabulary spelling book, I do not rip anything out of it. Again, this is one of those things that we use the spelling word list and the vocabulary word list to study. Well, let me see if I can find one. We use the spelling list and the vocab words to study. However, we rarely ever do the activities that go along with it. The civics activity book, that is definitely one that is going to be done. And that one, where did my pen go? I'm going crazy. What did I do? Oh, there it is. So this is going to happen in quarter 3 on lesson, let me see. It's going to happen quarter 3, lesson 86. Okay? So Q3, lesson 86. I'm just going to put that little tab right here so I know this later on. I'm not going to be adding it to the pile. And then Proverbs gets added in quarter 2. So I'm simply going to put Q2 here. So on the books that I have stowed away, so we can go ahead and remember that when the time comes. Now it's going to be time to start ripping things out. I'm going to go through, since these don't come unbound, I'm going to go through and I'm going to tear out everything that I need for quarter 1, beginning with the book of Acts. So you're going to notice that in here, these things are perforated. I mean, the perforation is not that deep, but you can still tear out the things. See? Nope. I could have probably ripped them all at once. Look at me being ultra careful. All right. I'm going to take this and this, because this is quarter 2, and I'm simply going to put them on the side. Now to the pre-algebra. I'm going to do the same thing. And whenever I tear stuff down, whenever I tear stuff out, and I'm getting ready for it to be added into the binder, I always like to stagger stack. So I know when a new book is going to come up, all right? It just helps my brain. I don't have to go through everything that I tear out again to retag and show, retag a new subject. I just simply take it, put it there, and it just lets me know that that's a new subject, or a new book rather. Then I'm going to tear out these quick quizzes from the video manual that I already tagged for arithmetic. All right, so everything is torn out now. Here's where things are gonna get a little bit interesting because of all the different sections. Now, I'm condensing this into 5 sections, like I said before. If you want to do more sections and not intertwine everything, you can do that too. This is just the way that works best for my family, and I want to keep it in those subject specific things. So for the Bible one, there's not much that we have to do to. When it comes to math, here we have the quizzes and tests, and then here we have the quick quizzes. And then here's where we're gonna start intertwining things. So for this, I'm going to reference the progress report because here it tells you which lesson do the quick quizzes happen and which lessons do the regular quizzes happen. Now for the quizzes and the tests, we really don't have to worry about intertwining that because this came together already chronologically done. We're going to be putting these quick quizzes in between the lessons that they belong in. So for example, quick quiz A occurs in lesson 3. Quiz 1 occurs in lesson 4. So I'm putting quick quiz A on top of quiz 1. Then quick quiz B happens in lesson 8 right here, okay? So I'm gonna look over here and I'm going to see that, well, quiz 2 happens in 6, quiz 3 happens in 9. So that means quiz B must be added before quiz 3. I'm gonna go through here. Where's my quiz 3? Here we go. There's B, okay? Now quiz 3 takes place in 9. Quiz C takes place in 11. So I'm going to put quiz C here. Quiz 4 takes place in lesson 12. Quiz D takes place in 13. So it's almost like every other one is going to have a quick quiz. Quiz 5 takes place in lesson 15. Test 1 takes place in lesson 17, and quiz E takes place in lesson 19. So that means that my quick quiz E is going to go after the first test. Does that make sense? My son is just gonna be doing this as it comes up. He's not going in between things. Okay, so you know, at first, it does take some time to put together, but what I'm going to do is, after I'm done putting this binder together, I'm going to go through the rest of the quarters and I'm going to do this exact same thing for everything for the rest of the year. That way, at the end of each quarter, I don't have to do this. It's just better to get it done now before we even start school, before I even go to work, so that this heavy stuff is all done ahead of the game. For the English portion, is going to be the exact same thing that I just did with the math. Let's look over here at the progress report for 1. And once again, it tells you here when is each one of these taking place. Now, let me see, what is it? The poetry quizzes, we really don't do that. I'm gonna skip that, so I'm not gonna put that in there. And then the reading quizzes, let me see, is that reading? Nope. These, I'm not gonna do these because I think these are like from in here and it has the answers and stuff and I don't feel like that's necessary. So we're gonna be looking at the speed comprehension quizzes, the regular composition sections quizzes, the composition, and the spelling quizzes, and we're gonna stick them all together, okay? I'm going to lay it out as following. I'm going to put the grammar first in one tab, then I'm going to put the speed in another tab, the spelling in another tab, and then the composition in another tab. And this is just, I remember when I was a classroom teacher and I had to like go through real quick and just pick and go that way. It just makes it easier if I lay it out this way. So I'm gonna look at my progress report. I'm going to see the first thing that happens is a grammar quiz, and that's on lesson 4. I'm not doing the reading quiz, so I'm not worried about that, okay? So lesson 4 is gonna be grammar. Then the next assessment that takes place is the vocabulary and spelling, followed by the speed quiz, the comprehension quiz, and then the composition, okay? So I'm gonna start with grammar first, then what was it? Grammar, spelling, comprehension, composition, okay? Now the thing about composition right here is that not everyone is taken for a grade, so I have to keep that in mind, okay? Then it says I have a grammar test. Well, you know what? I'm going to do the grammar quiz first on lesson 8. Then I'm going to do this composition here on lesson 8 underneath the grammar. But there's another composition thing here on lesson 9. I'm going to keep that underneath. And then now I'm at lesson 10. I'm going to look over here and see if there's anything that's on lesson 10. And I see that vocabulary and spelling quiz 2 is on lesson 10. This over here takes place also in lesson 10. So I'm going to put that this way. And then I'm going to continue doing that for the rest of this. Now for 21, there is a book report. I need to make some copies of this right here. This one, you are allowed to be making copies of it. It says, see, may be reproduced. I just can't make copies right now because we're in the middle of putting off my floor and we're supposed to be done by the end of this week, which I'm so excited. Everything is looking great. The problem is that everything is unhooked and I can't print anything right now. So I'm just gonna put it in there and put, you know what? I'm gonna put a little sticky note so I don't forget. I'm gonna put make copies. So in case I do forget, we all see that it says make copies there. It doesn't get, you know. Now we're gonna go into the history section. In the history section, the quizzes and the tests are in the same location. We're just going to pepper in these projects. And for that, I'm once again going to reference this over here. All right, so based on this, I'm going to see that the geography projects, it tells you which number and what lesson goes in there. So I'm just gonna go through and for example, lesson 6 is when project 1 is due. That's right after quiz 1. All right, so I'm gonna put that in there and do it. Moving on to science over here. And this is where the quizzes and the tests are separate. So the STEM project, I went ahead and stapled it. And like I said, I'll just put that in a cover and the geography studies too. So I'm going to go through and just simply blend in quizzes and tests. Alrighty, now that all of that is done, I'm gonna go through and I'm going to create my labels. So my first one will be for Bible, pre-algebra, English, history, science. We do have a physical education one. However, that one I'm not adding to the binder since we do that one when I get home from work. He's chosen walking as part of the activity that he wants to do for these first 9 weeks. And we already got started on that. So that one I'm gonna keep separate from all of this. All right, we're almost done here. It's time to hole punch everything. No. I do it like this, and then I once again do the whole stagger stacking. Now I'm gonna be filling it from the back to the front, so that means my science goes on the very back. So the binder is officially put together. All of the assessments are here. I'm placing the STEM projects and the geography study right here in this pocket. It just fits nicely. He can have access to it right away. The binder that I'm using for this is a 1.5 inch binder. Forgot to mention that at the beginning. And then as for the workbooks, I am simply putting them in these containers that I've had since we started homeschooling. So his textbook for English is here, for grammar, for science, and for history. And pre-algebra, we are keeping this together because last year we decided to keep the whole book together as well. Sometimes we just have to go back and revisit some concepts, and we found that it's better if instead of taking it apart for our son, we just keep it all put together in one place. And there we are. We are ready for this year to begin. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to share it with someone. And if you have not done so yet, please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.